Hello, everyone. Welcome to Online Abnormal Psychology. This is Ms. Tapman, and I will be your instructor for this course. So this is a 15-week course, and I wanted to do this video for you so that you're able to see some of the requirements and where to access all the information. So first, when you log into D2L and you click this course, you'll be taken to this welcome page. You'll see your announcements here, which will be updated frequently, and your upcoming events or calendar information there. When you click on content, you dive into the course. If you were to click overview, this is a brief overview of abnormal psychology. My instructor information is here for you as well. Please note that I do prefer to be emailed. And please include your name, course, and section because I teach so many classes and have so many students. I need to know which course you're referring to. Also, if you would like some personal instruction or have specific questions regarding an assignment, please designate an appointment during these times. So those are my student hours. And there's also a number listed there for you as well. Once you make the appointment, we can certainly have a phone conversation. Underneath this, you'll see a brief email etiquette document that you can access that is strictly for your reference. The book information is listed here. You will have to purchase this book through either Dell Tech or another online source. And then the DSM-5 link is here for you as well. In the past, students have been given the option to purchase this book through Dell Tech. However, that is no longer the case, but you can rent it at the library if you need to. But that is the link to specifically, the information for the DSM-5, and you will be using this later in your case study. However, to access the information within it for your case study, which I'll get to in a moment, you will have to do some Googling and referencing disorders and diagnostic information regarding those disorders another way. The timeline, syllabus, and policies is an important link to you because you'll obviously be able to access this course orientation video, which you're looking at now. However, you'll also be able to access the timeline. This is a 15-week course, and I recommend that you download it, print this out, because you will refer to it often. For example, do this first week, September 7th. You have 4 assignments to complete. Also notice at the end, week 15, you have exam 4. That is your only assignment. However, it is due December 12th, which is a Saturday. So other than that week, all the other corresponding assignments are due the Monday at 7 a.m. after that designated week. If we go back to the contents, again, you will see under this link a grading policy update for fall 2020. There's a new scale for A through F. Some course policies in the syllabus are also listed there for you. D2L resources are here for you. Smart Thinking is an online tutoring link for you as well. And then you'll be able to access all of your course content, including the Chapter 1 outline, the homeworks, all of that, for example, under each week. So under week 1, you'll see Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, and that is also listed on the timeline. You'll click this link to complete the discussion topic. So if we go into it, Please submit your name and the dates for the following assignments. It's basically a check as to, did you read the timeline, and do you know when all of these things are due? There's a chapter outline for each chapter as well. And this is just a fill in the blank notes, guided notes, if you will, for your review. It does not have to be turned in. And then to submit an assignment, you just click the link and upload we'll read what it is, and then upload your homework assignment via a Word document. You'll also see in each chapter, or just about each chapter, not every single chapter, there's a crossword puzzle for you. It's strictly extra credit. You do not have to turn that in. Your Chapter 2 homework is very important in the fact that it asks you to pick and list your top 3 celebrity choices for your case study. So I'm going to dive into your case study information, or your case study link, where to access that. At the bottom, you'll see there's going to be a rough draft and when it's due, and you can also see that on the timeline, and then when your final case study is here, or your final case study is due, and you can upload it there. There's also an APA resource for you and an example case study from a former student from a former course. So you're not allowed to use this person. Okay. So the grading criteria is listed here, but most importantly, I want to quickly go through the study or case study format guidelines. So you will choose any 3 celebrities that you want. Okay. They had to be famous. And when you submit them to me, I will respond after that Chapter 2 homework is submitted and give you a suggestion as to who I think you should proceed with in reference to the case study. It tells you exactly what is needed, what is required for the case study, a little bit about in-text citations, which you have additional APA resources listed under content. But most importantly, wherever you see an arrow is where you really need to pay attention, and those are going to be your headings. So you'll have a title page, you'll have an abstract, and then your pages 3 through 7, you will actually have listed there as a subheading background assessment information. So if you were to choose, for example, Robin Williams, yes, your quote unquote client, right? This person that you are writing about and doing research on and diagnosing all of these things for your case study, they can be deceased, but feel free to pick whoever you want. So for example, if you were to choose Robin Williams, right? So who is the client? This is kind of a guided questions for you to, really help you look into this patient or this client. What is his family history? What is his social relationship history? What is his medical history? Now, obviously, some people may not have some of that information listed, and that's completely okay. But gather as much background information about this person as you can. You do not have to fill in every single section here, answer every single question, because not all the information is going to be available to the public, okay? So don't stress about that too much. However, that section is going to be the bulk of your pages. So next is a description of the presenting problem. So for example, if you said that Robin Williams, had a history of depression, well, once you get into chapters 5, 6, and we move along in the course, this will be a little bit more familiar to you. However, what are the symptoms that he had? What was the date of onset? What was the intensity, the frequency, all of those things? How often, how long, what behaviors was he exhibiting to demonstrate that he was depressed? Then you will have another section, another subheading, which is the diagnosis through the DSM-5. So you can't just say he was depressed, because this, that, and the other. You have to give me the appropriate diagnoses through the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. Okay, so that's when dive into Google, look up DSM-5 depression, and it'll show, the patient needed to exhibit 3 out of 5 criteria, and this is the specific criteria. What are the observations that are important to basically support your evidence that he was depressed? So any evidence that you can cite from your research and from your text will be strictly important, especially since we don't have the DSM-5 in front of us as a full text. You may, which would be wonderful. And again, you can rent the DSM-5 at the library. So the treatment plan. If you were to be the therapist for the client, so for Robin Williams, let's say, what would be your goals for the counseling? What kind of methods would you incorporate? And I listed some suggestions here. Would there be any additional services that you could utilize? And then what are the relevant ethical and legal considerations? Basically, a celebrity wouldn't just walk into an AA meeting, right, off the street. Well, they may, but the ethical consideration would be that, that the confidentiality of that person and the fact that they are a celebrity would be a huge issue to the public. And then what is the prognosis? So, you would say, oh, I think that that this intervention would be excellent because, whatever reasons you want to give, or this prognosis, this method to treat the patient, if you will, is favorable because of this, that, and the other. And then you would, if you were to choose Robin Williams, you would say that, after this, in the conclusion, you would say that he had previously, or he is deceased. However, if you were to work as his therapist and support him in this treatment plan, that, this would have worked or not, and why. Explain. So your last page will be your references, and again, you can access a lot of the APA resources, or much of the APA resources available to you in this course or by clicking the APA resources link. So here are standards for all papers. Here's how to reference websites, which you'll be using a lot because we are online right now. See APA do's and don'ts. So all of that information will be very useful to you. And then one last thing I want to go in detail with is the oral presentation. So obviously we're not in class. Obviously you're not going to be up in front of the class and giving the oral presentation of your case study. However, you can choose to record yourself, or you can do something like I'm doing and just generate a PowerPoint and do a voiceover and upload that as your oral presentation. You want to submit that here. Here are the instructions as well, and then the grading sheet or rubric. Okay. One thing I want to make a note of, obviously body language that may or may not apply depending on if you have a video or a voiceover, but your voice and language will be rated, and your visual aid. So basically, is your PowerPoint too busy? Is it a blank white PowerPoint? Did you not, put any effort into it to make it creative? So please spend some time on this portion of your course. And then you'll also notice under your APA resources, there are additional rubrics that I've added here for your review. So a discussion forum rubric, and when you take your exams, there are short answers, and there's a short answer rubric that I use to grade those assignments as well. So again, if you have any questions relating to this course, please reach out via email first, and we will also be setting up a Zoom meeting so that we can dive a little bit more into your questions prior to the course beginning. So good luck, and I look forward to this course this fall.